value for shareholders. And if you want to give me a couple hours, I'll tell you why.
Yeah, just to add one thing too about network management. If you look at the ISP traffic themselves, they have teams that work and filter out spam and Trojan viruses and things that can infect the network very quickly. And so to some extent, we have to have that network management just to make those things work. Sure. If we don't, what we come up with is sort of a dumb network, the sort of the commons. And it's at that point where the real value, when you sort of socialize that with everyone, the whole value of that network is worth less. And so there needs to sort of be that kind of intelligence in there to make sure. And one of the tricks to it is when you begin setting those rules, and everyone knows the rules, then also the people who create these bad acts on the network will understand vulnerabilities to those rules. So one of the side effects of being too open about what we're going to filter and what we're not going to filter and how we're going to do it and what's the process, and these are our rules for network management, is that you're also helping people who are trying to infect the network. I didn't mean to interrupt, just wanted to add that.
Well, that's more of a case for National Comprehensive Cybersecurity Reform, right?
Well, we need that too.
Okay.
Any others? Yes, sir.
Are you aware of any studies or have you done any research as to the impacts of local broadband co-ops or municipalities taking up high-speed internet? I know there's been instances in North Carolina, Minnesota, and Louisiana I'm thinking of. In the 3 cases, they didn't have the high-speed internet provided by the Time Warner, whoever the local person was. And in North Carolina, there's now legislation up in the State House there to prohibit towns from doing that, whereas Minnesota and Louisiana haven't done a whole lot on that.
Let me give you 2 answers, one out of my heart and one out of my brain. Okay, my heart, because my middle name's Franklin, right? And there's a famous president named Franklin, right? So, I'm really in favor of public participation and government provisions and so forth. And so going first to take a look at these municipal systems, and this is before the real crunch. And this is when they had a lot of money. Right now they don't have any money. And so, I don't want to cover that. So I'm kind of, in a way I'm sympathetic, for that kind of populist view. Then when I put on my sort of economist and consumer welfare hat, I asked myself the following 3 questions. Number 1, who can run these things most efficiently? I mean, I live in the District of Columbia, I don't know about you, but I mean the District of Columbia can't pick up my trash right. Okay? They can't run my schools right. And I could go on and on and on. And I don't mean to pick out the District of Columbia. I live in Philadelphia, and I live in Anderson, and I can go on and on. But these are not the people I want to run the network. Okay, that's point number 1. Point number 2 is there is no such thing as a free good. There's a good reason, a good economic reason why the companies haven't built networks here in the first place. And I would argue that for the most part, that reason is because the value of the networks, as measured by the amount people are willing to pay for them, doesn't cover the cost. Okay, so here you have a municipality saying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a management team that, it may be good. I can name 3 or 4 communities that have at least as good a management as Verizon and Time Warner and others. I can think of that. But by and large, I don't want these companies managed. But what they're saying is, let us build that. And then the question becomes, how do you pay for it? Okay? And right now, they're laying off teachers, they're laying off policemen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It makes absolutely no business sense to me that they be taking those kinds of funds or increasing taxes, okay, in order to pay for a municipal system. I would argue if you want a municipal system, the ratio, for example, state and local taxes on the network companies that I have here average 12 and almost 13% of gross revenue for these companies, and only about 6% for companies on the average. I would say if you really want those, then give them a tax cut, let them use that cash flow and build it, and try to subsidize it that way. And the third part I mentioned was, I haven't looked at the studies recently, but the one in Philadelphia, there's one in San Francisco, there were several of these that were tried.
Tacoma, Bristol.
Pardon me?
Tacoma and Bristol were others too.
And it just didn't work. So the history's not good. Does that say it's impossible? No, it doesn't say it's impossible. Does it say it's improbable? In my view, yes. Any others? Come on. Well, I mean, I'll be even more provocative, right, if you would like. Sir? Then, yes, sir.
I just want to give a shameless plug. Congressman Blackburn has the bill in the House and Senator McCain has it in the Senate. And it's a net neutrality bill. All it says is core is that if you want to have this net neutrality fight, let's make it in Congress, not the FCC. So if and you work for congressional offices, want more information on our bill, or have friends in other congressional offices that you want to encourage to jump on, we have about 24, 25 co-sponsors, and the Pete Sessions is on it.
Well, Steve and I think about these, my wife says I think about it too much. You know, I get up in the morning, I have a couple cups of coffee, and she's still asleep, and I'm saying, on the other hand, you know, I talk about net neutrality or sort of the cause of the day. But as you and your members and acquaintances work through some of the economics of this, we encourage you and offer, you know, our council calls. You know, we'll come in, another big issue is innovation, the impact of regulations and taxes on innovation. We'll be talking about that, you know, in about a month from now. So we know a lot about investment, we know a lot about jobs, we know a lot about innovation, we know a lot about how government action influences consumer and consumer welfare. And we'd be happy to share that information, in particular when there's going to be an enormous amount of discussion of the National Broadband Plan, and the FCC brings it out and sends it over here. And we're all looking forward to that, and we'd be happy to have the opportunity to come visit with you and just throw our ideas in the pot, right? And we take pride in our ideas because we think they stand up to hostile cross-examination, and we're not afraid to put them out there. Sir?
Yeah. I know I put that in the application later before, but I want to go back because my concern is that a lot of the discussion has been around investment in broadband itself, the impacts of that investment, and the reasons for why we want to protect networks, right? Which is fine, and you give great analysis on that. But the part that my concern lies in is in the application development and software development, things that go over IP, right? Not the actual fiber itself. So I'm a corporation, we'll call me Schmoogle, okay? And I have the Schmoogle phone, right, or Schmoogle voice.
No, I'm like
It's not really my thing so much, but so let's say I developed the Schmoogle phone, right? It uses large packets that are transmitted that require no latency so that the signal doesn't degrade and I can make my call from Beijing to, you know, Boise, Idaho. Now, if we step back and we look at what reasonable network management principles are, a lot of them have to do with controlling things like spam and trojans, and a lot of them have to, you know, control the network to make sure that it's not overburdened. Without any type of network neutrality infrastructure, my understanding, and I'd love it if you would correct me, my understanding is that they prioritize service in ways that reprioritizes large signals or things that use up a large piece of bandwidth to make sure that people have easy access to the network, right? So that the guy who's just doing a Google search
to optimize total value of
for
use of the
everybody.
network.
You can claim for that for everybody. Now, if I'm using the Schmoogle phone and it requires that all of my packets get delivered in sequence, in order, upon arrival, so that the call doesn't get dropped, why, as a network manager, would I want to not deprioritize that over the guy or the hundreds of people who are just doing a Google search?
Why, as a network manager, would I not want to do that?
Yeah.
First of all,